Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tales from the Wandering Quill Book Impressions. Tonight is a late night episode, and it will mark a special occasion today because we have arrived at the final book. That is right, the fifth book that I have bought at the Festival of Books earlier this year. In this episode, we'll be reading and giving our initial reviews for Season of the Dragon by author Natalie Wright. And this book was quite an endeavor to read. I mean, this is a very thick book, but it is a very fascinating book. And honestly, the storyline and sort of the character growth is very reminiscent of The Last Millennium by S.G. Blaze that I read very early on in this quest of mine to read these 5 books. And as a little refresher for those who may not remember the announcement episode I made about these 5 books, let me read the overall plot of the story. Quen wasn't born to save the world. She was created to destroy it. Quen is cursed with a second shadow soul. Sensing the oddity within, animals run from her. An untenable trait in a herding culture. On the cusp of her 20th year, Quen is at risk of becoming a Pesha, a no one. Then a dragon kills her father. The murder turns Quen's life upside down and dashes her hope for an honorable life. As her anger grows, so does her untapped power. Fueled by a quest for vengeance, she joins a vigilante group of mages and rogues hunting the beast. But her journey soon reveals a terrible truth. Her battle prowess has caught dangerous eyes, and now she has become the hunted. At the end of her journey, her fate will be sealed. Can Quen overcome her curse and unite her warring souls, or will her shadow soul consume her and everyone she loves? The fate of her homeland and all she loves hangs in the balance. Now, reading this book was incredible. As I mentioned earlier on, this was a very fascinating read. This is true, in my opinion, very true high fantasy. The lore is very complex, which I like. The characters are very unique. The culture is its own. And you really get a sense that this is not your typical dragon fantasy world. It's very different. It's very unique. And to give you an idea of what the world is like, here are maps of the world that Season of the Dragon takes place in. You have Menauld, the world of Menauld, and you have 4 major continents. You have Indrasi, Tinox, Bipian Archipelago, and Alpina. And then we turn to the continent of Indrasi and the surrounding areas. This is where most of the story takes place in the first book. And I should mention this early on. This is slated to be a series. From what I've been told by the author herself, this is probably going to be a trilogy, because it does end on a cliffhanger, but a satisfying cliffhanger. Like, this can stand alone in its own right. But it is slated to be a series, maybe a trilogy of books. And it is a very fascinating read. And, without a doubt, probably one of my favorites. Now, let us dive into the world of Season of the Dragon by Natalie Wright. Part 1. Song of Niadi. Wake, wee Niadi, wake, escape the shadow's dream. Your love awaits, her light you seek, embrace Indrasi's shores, ho. Ride brave Niadi, ride across the starry sky. Erase the night, hero to all, banish the shadows, call, ho! Dance glad Niadi, dance, rejoice in Lumaine's arms. When her sweet kiss, the queen of night, fight to deserve her hand, ho! Stay, friend Niadi, stay, empty your cup, oh drink. Bring honeyed ale and blossoms pale. Sing till your brother wakes, ho! Song of Niadi, Sumer drinking song, circa 1380, Third Era, Quen Dynasty. This automatically gives me the feeling of The Witcher. The Witcher from the game I played, The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt. I like when fantasy worlds give the 1300, 1200, because it's a very unused trait in fantasy stories. Usually they say the Third Era or the age of the Quen Dynasty, but I like when they give it actually like a year, like this is 1300 or 1200 or 900 or something like that. It's very unique, and it really makes the story stand out. And we begin Chapter 1. Quen's two hearts drummed an uneven rhythm, matching the thunder of the approaching herd. The people of Solia crowded the wide dirt boulevard, whooping and ringing bells to welcome the first returning herd clan of the season. Quen wanted to join the excitement, but she dared get no closer than Fano's smithing tent, set a row back from the main road. I don't want to repeat last year. The galloping herd entered Solia's gate, and the ground quaked. Quen's shadow heartbeat, normally a phantom quiver, thrummed. A head taller than most people from Sumer's province, Quen easily peered over others and spotted the first riders through the gates. To her surprise, her brother, Roji, led Pijuar herd clan into town. I wondered where he had gone off to this morning. Roji's Kopek, Gambol, trotted proudly, his freshly oiled, leathery skin glistening in the midday light of the two suns. Rising winds fluttered Roji's blue feather earrings and rippled Pijuar's clan's orange banners. Despite his morning ride into the Sumer's shifting sands, Roji's bone-white lined tunic and riding pants remained pristine. How does he manage to do that? Ubiquitous Sumer dust-caked Quen's sand-colored linen tunic and wide-leg pants. Hika Roji! Quen called. The crowd cheers swelled, welcoming their favorite local son as if he had been gone on a year-long quest. Roji was merely the second son of a clanless Solia merchant, but neither Roji nor his adoring fans seemed to know that. He looked like a Sumer prince if he wasn't riding a damn Kopek. Fano, Quen's friend and a traveling blacksmith originally from the capital province, thrust a wheel loop into the quench, steam rising and quickly dissipating in the dry air. Kopek looked like something dead, buried and brought back to life. Fano whipped copious sweat from his brow, his forehead dusty, and cooling himself off with an oil-stained cloth. He's not wrong. Gambol's hairless skin, taut across his keg-shaped skeletal ribcage, gleamed like aged leather, his long legs spindly but agile. Quen called again and waved to Roji. He gave her a head bob and veered toward her just as the lead rider of Pijuar clan galloped, their Tunka herd now barreling into the gates behind them. Gambol got within a few feet of Fano's smithington and jerked away, his eyes showing the white. Roji pulled at the lead, trying to get close enough to talk without shouting. Like all animals Quen encountered, Gambol didn't want to get near Quen. My damned curse. Not even Dini, the town's Bruxia healer and wise woman, could explain Quen's curse with animals. But whatever the reason, Quen's oddity meant she was unfit for binding with a herd clan. In the Sumer, a person without a herd clan or honorable profession was Pesha. No one. Quen sighed and wrapped a strand of her kefla around her nose and mouth to keep out the dust. She tried to console herself. At nearly 20, Quen was the last of her peers without a herd clan. I probably won't enjoy being a herd wife anyway. Studying at a Pilar was her only hope of an honorable future. Or at least one her father, Papi, considered proper. They impatiently awaited an emissary from the Pilar of the Way of Walter Val'Anara to advise whether the Archon would admit Quen. She had no magical ability, no innate understanding of Menares, but they trained in the Okran arts of war. Maybe that will be my path. The pungent odor of Tosca musk filled the air, and Quen wrinkled her nose. The ground rumbled as the herd sprinted through Solima, intent on the life-giving waters of the Lakmi River at the eastern edge of town. I didn't scare them this time. It was reason enough for celebration after the debacle the prior spring. Quen twirled the ends of her keffla catching the breeze, her tunic's billowy sleeves like wings. Roji stared down at her and said, "You look like a lopsided cart without a driver." Her rare moment of joy repelled his brotherly barb, the way her presence repelled even the most docile woolly dray. "Allow me some peace, Roji." The bony protrusion on the back of her neck tingled, and she rubbed it and then chastised herself. "You can't will it away. Stop, or you'll only draw attention." Quen removed her hand from the prominence that had grown under her skin a few weeks ago. It was a sign that she was losing her lifelong battle to suppress the shadow soul within, the soul of a changeling known as a Nixian. Quen was determined not to let the Nixian have its first metamorphosis. Though most Nixian morphed from human to beast form and back again with ease, some Nixian remain in animal form after their first promena. "I'll be keeping my skin, Nixian." But even still waters, the relaxation technique Pafi had taught her, barely worked any longer to calm the wild second spirit within. Quen breathed deeply and repeated her still waters mantra. "I won't let you win, Nixian." The pounding of the shadow heart calmed, and Quen sighed with gratitude that she regained control. For now. The lads of Pietro's clan's Thunka passed, and now Dre, horned sheep-like animals ready for shearing, waddled through the merchant square. The air was thick with dust kicked up by the herd. Pijuar's clan children brought up the rear of the small but proud herd clan. They rode on the rounded shellbacks of juvenile Ranju, waving. Their eyes, the only part of their face visible amidst the wrap of their kefflas, were bright and twinkling. I bet they're smiling. The crowd cheered even louder, their bells clanging. Roji clapped, though his red leather riding gloves muffled it. Fano put 2 fingers to his mouth and whistled. Quen clapped politely, but she dared not allow herself to join in the revelry wholeheartedly. The internal battle to restrain her wild second soul took great concentration, and just being near the excitement was risky enough. Pietro clan gathered now on the Lakmi river banks. Roji clicked his tongue and steered Gambul into the streets. "Join me at the tanning bay before Nyadi is past zenith. I have a new dye to try out before Jima clan arrives." Quen rolled her eyes. "Thinks he can lord over me? Who died and made you first of kin?" "Do what you will, but if Poppy catches you at Yulina's drinking instead of in the tanning bay, he'll have your hide." Roshi trotted toward the town center, leaving Quen in a second sour mood. "Please, Lumnia, send Velnaga's messenger soon." Though Quen had doubts about finding happiness sequestered in a remote sanctuary, she'd at least be free of working hides and Roshi's haughty attitude. "Skins can wait." Quen pulled her bone-hilted dagger from her waist scabbard and began sharpening it on Fano's whetstone. "Didn't you sharpen it yesterday?" Fano's paunchy belly jiggled as he laughed. "What'd you do, cut leather with it?" Quen stroked the blade across the stone. She retorted, "Keeping it sharp enough to shear the rocks off a fellow who doesn't know when to leave off the ribbing." Fano laughed harder. "Remind me to keep my stones away from your blade, then." Quen joined in his laughter. The repetitive stroking of the blade against the stone calmed her spirits. The Nixian's phantom heartbeat was now silent, and Quen let out a sigh of relief. Her respite was short-lived. As Quen stowed her freshly honed blade, the ridges on the back of her neck zinged like a taut rope snapping. Her neck deformity burned, and queasiness washed over her. Through the still dusty air, Quen squinted at a hulking figure entering Solina's western gates. 2 fiery orange eyes of a Kopek-sized black wolf pierced the sandy haze, riding the strange beast of a woman dressed in black robes. Centauros, monks and masters of the pillars, wore such robes. Deep crimson embroidery edged the Centauros' robes. The black and crimson combination didn't match any of the four pillars. The woman's long flowing hair was as black as the wolf's and contrasted with her pale skin. A symbol etched in red ink emblazoned the stranger's forehead. Kentauros bore the Trinity symbol inked in red, a blazing sun, inside of which was a crescent moon cradling a miniature sun. But the stranger's mark was not the Trinity. Instead, she bore the mark of a fiery red dragon inside a radiant sun. Where is the sister, Lume, and Nyadji, the little brother's son? A Kentaro not bearing the Trinity mark? Well, that's odd. Quen rubbed the back of her neck. The bony prominence had never burned like this before. It felt like her spine was breaking through her skin. She feared the nubby ridges had finally poked through. Quen wasn't sure if excitement or an ill omen caused the novel sensation. Though the brothers, the sun gods, were blazing as ever, she was now cold. Run, stupid, run from the stranger. But Quen's feet remained planted like a kioi tree. Hairs on Quen's neck stood on end, and rivulets of sweat ran down her sides. Apparently unaware of Quen staring like an awestruck child, the woman paid her no heed. She kept her eyes on the horizon, but wore a wide, serene smile. It was a sort of smile reserved for family or good friends, not outsiders. Most animals, when approaching Quen, got wide-eyed, flared their nostrils, let out the acrid odor of fear, and jerked away. But the approaching wolf displayed none of the usual signals of wariness. If this creature isn't afraid of me, maybe other animals outside of Sumer won't fear me either. The odd Kentaro kept her eyes on the horizon as she rode through town. Quen wanted to stop her. Why didn't her wolf react as animals normally do around me? But she was as mute as a stone. Unusual for Quen. Merchants exited their tent stalls to watch the newcomer pass. Spring waters in the Lakmi brought new people to Solia. The town was filling with seasonal merchants and entertainers, though the Kentaros from the pillars sometimes stopped to resupply in Solia. It was rare. Rarer still was a stranger riding a wolf. Roji apparently hadn't gone far, and he approached. The stranger pulled on thin leather reins, and her giant wolf stopped. I bid you welcome, mistress, esteemed, Roji stammered. He bowed his head. Quen chuckled at Roji's stumbled introduction. You may address me as Cantro Nevada. The woman had a smooth, reassuring voice. If Roji had offended the Cantro, she didn't show it. And with whom do I have the honor of speaking? I feel pulled to this stranger, like iron fillings to a lodestone. Her phantom heart thumped, and Quen closed her eyes and thought, still waters. You're trying to corral a wild bull, Kopak. After several repetitions of the mantra, the Nikshan soul was again silent. Roji straightened, thrust his chin out, and said, Roji tomo santu di sulmer. Kentaro Navarro's eyes widened, but only for an instant. Her smile grew broader. Ah, how fortuitous! She bowed her head and murmured, Hiari provides. When she raised her head, the smile faded. I came many leagues to speak with your papi and Madi. Please take me to them. Roji blanched, but soon his color returned. I am afraid I can only meet half your request, Kentaro Nevada, as my Madi, Sulmai, has gone to the arms of the sister. To his credit, Roji kept his voice even and gaze unaffected. Around Quen, Roji never maintained composure when speaking of their mother. If Quen spoke their mother's name, Roji would rage and storm away. Though Suliam hadn't died in childbirth, she went to Lumie's arms of Quen when Quen was barely 1 year old. For reasons Quen never understood, Roji blamed her for their Madi's death. The Kentro touched her lips to her chest, her mouth, and last put the pad of her right thumb to the symbol on her forehead. She whispered, May the sister embrace her. Roji kissed his fingers, put the thumb to his forehead, and gave the required reply, and the brothers light welcome her. Among the pillars of Vadya di Soles, this ritual prayer for the dead was the only thing all four shared. It was as universal as complaining about taxes levied by the Coven dynasty. You're here to see Papi, then, Roji said. I can take you to him, should it please you. Kentro Navarro gave a favorable nod. Most gracious. Anyone in town could have pointed the way to Santu's stand. With only 100 permanent residents in Solia, everyone knew everybody else, and since her Papi owed Santu's stand, the largest stone for goods and wares in the southern Sulmer, all who visit Solia knew Santu. Quen followed, but neither Rojino nor Navarra gave glance to her. Roji, always looking for an opportunity to impress someone he considered important, was busy kissing up to the Kentaro, and Kentaro remained focused on whatever made her ignore everything around her. As they approached Poppy's store, Roji offered a hand to help the Kentaro off her mount. Any herder's daughter would blush if the tall, dashing Roji offered his hand, but Kentaro Nevada was no herder's daughter. Kentaro dismounted on the opposite side of Roji. Roji's cheeks colored. At first wary at the imposing Kentaro, Quen was beginning to like her. She can take down Roji a few pigs. I hope she stays all spring. This way. Roji opened the rickety door covered in flecks of bright yellow, and they entered the round, earthy building locally known as Santu's Stand. Quen entered behind them, catching the door with her foot so it wouldn't slam. The Kentaros inspected Statu's indoor market. Her upper lip curled as though she smelled something foul. As far as Quen was concerned, Statu's Stand was the finest building in town. Most merchants and traders worked out of tent stalls that sprang up along the main road, tucked between the permanent small mud brick huts. If the Kentaro thinks Statu's Stand is beneath her, then whatever pillar she's from must be something to see. Poppy had pulled back the canvas roof. The bright midday light of the big brother Hyadi and his little brother Nyadi flooded the interior of Statu's Stand. Poppy had his back to them, talking to a herd wife about a small bottle he held. This is Hubson pine oil. I think it's what you need. Our Bruxia Dini uses this on squalling babes who tug at the ears. How much? The herd wife opened the small leather purse hanging from the primitively made leather belt at her waist. Worried pinched her brow. She pulled some coins from her pouch. She was a young woman, likely Quen age, and she looks like she'll soon have another babe to worry about. I know that young mother. The woman had bound with Walu herd clan. Raiders assailed Walu, a small herd clan, a few years back. Walu lost most of their herd and their best herdsmen. Santu pushed the woman's hand gently. "Ah," he said. "It is such a small bottle. Save your dollars, but promise you will use it. Your babe will be happier. And you and your herdsman, too, I should say." He chuckled and put the bottle in her hand. The herdwife tucked the bottle into her leather purse. "Thank you, Santu." She kissed Poppy's weathered cheek, and then turned to make her way out. She stopped when she saw the three standing inside the door. Santu turned and noticed Kentaro Nevada. Quen had seen Poppy angry only a few times in her 19 years. Once she and Roji tussled over the last slice of cream cake. They broke in a case of precious still water. Poppy made him do chores for Dini an entire month. Neither got the cake. The other time was a few months ago when word of a new Coven dynasty tax arrived. Santu looked angrier now than he had on either of those occasions. Bushy salt and pepper brows were knit over eyes like charred coal. His usual jovial smile had turned to a large furrowed frown beneath flared nostrils. His voice was a low growl. "How dare you darken my door?" Santu drew his knife bow and advanced on Kentaro Nevada. "I told you if I ever saw you again, I'd kill you." And with that, listeners, we're going to stop off there. Now, this book very much reminds me of old school fantasy, very much like Conan the Barbarian, very high fantasy, as I mentioned. It is a very interesting. Now, as I mentioned, high fantasy is probably a big inspiration for the Season of the Dragon. The names are very unique. They may be a little complex. The overall lore of the story may be a little complex, but if you're fans of Lord of the Rings, Dune, and other old school fantasy stories, you will have a blast reading this book. Now, this book, I will definitely say, my rating would be a 4 out of 5. Now, 4 out of 5 is still very good. The only reason why it's not 5 out of 5 is that when I finished reading the book, it did take me a while to get the characters' names right, follow who was with whom throughout the story. As I mentioned, the names are very complex, but if you're used to those kinds of stories, those kind of characters, then you will easily enjoy Season of the Dragon. And be on the lookout for upcoming episodes in the future. I won't say much, but I have some episodes slated coming soon. Well, listeners, this concludes another Wandering Quill Book Impressions episode. This is the 5th and final book of the Festival of Books collection. And I hope you have enjoyed these episodes. And remember, please like and subscribe. Share your comments down below. What was your favorite of the 5 books you listened to me read? And make sure again to check out The Gathering on Barnes & Noble. And if you want to read it for free, you can head over to Inkit to make a free account and read The Gathering there in full for free as well. Thank you all so much for your love and support for my channel. It really means a lot to me. And I will see you all in the next few episodes. This is the Wandering Quill and Wandering Scribe, signing out.